cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Joseph John Gutey focuses on the creation of an intranet service to secure government communication, the customs information system, and COVID-19 tendencies in Cameroon. An express train from DOUALA to Yaounde to uplift railway transportation, Transport Minister, Camrai officials and traditional authorities take the test journey to assess the safety and security measures put in place. The illicit importation of goods hampers revenue collection in the taxation sector. The state loses huge amounts to fraudsters as customs and gendarmerie officers work in synergy to destroy the cankerworm. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 news.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
Welcome back. An intranet service which will safeguard governmental communication in Cameroon will soon be created on the instructions of Prime Minister Joseph John Gutey. This is one of the high points of this month's cabinet meeting, which equally examined the implementation of the Cameroon Customs Information System. Christian Chair Atam reports that the latest trends of the COVID-19 pandemic and the vaccination of some 11,000 persons were also highlighted today.
A secure channel for government communication is important if Cameroon must reduce leakages in official documents and guarantee the sovereignty of intra-governmental exchanges. The cabinet meeting for April explored the possibility of setting up such an intranet system.
The Prime Minister instructed us very quickly to prepare a project plan. A lot has already been done. We have infrastructure. All ministries are interconnected by optic fiber. What we need now is to put all together.
The putting in place of the Cameroon Customs Information System, CAMSIS, also came under scrutiny during the cabinet meeting for April. The minister delegate in the Ministry of Finance, Abdoulaye Yaouba, revealed that the implementation of the system has been successful, even though hampered by a few hitches. He said the system generated 750 billion francs revenue last year, a performance which represents a 108% success rate. Latest trends in the COVID-19 pandemic were also examined in the course of the cabinet meeting. They show a stabilization of the second wave of the pandemic in Cameroon.
We have a decrease as far as the spread is concerned. Decrease in concerning the death. We have a vaccine up to date. I think 11,000 of persons.
Prime Minister Joseph John Gutey has instructed the Minister of Finance to complete the operationalization of CAMSIS and to the Minister of Public Health to ensure the availability of second doses of vaccine against COVID-19.
The security and safety of 11 wagons renovated by the Cameroon Railway Company have been assessed by the Minister of Transport, Jean-Ernest Ngale-Bibehe. A test journey on one of the carriers was made today from DOUALA to Yaounde before the effective resumption of transportation of passengers, which will in turn allay traffic on the road network. Saleh Ebenyenyoki was amongst the travelers and now reports.
The special journey by the express train from DOUALA to Yaounde with the Minister of Transport, covering some 263 kilometers, marks the last phase of a series of technical tests to ensure the safety and security of the locomotive before it resumes transportation. Minister Jean-Ernest Ngale-Bibehe, alongside administrative, traditional and religious authorities, made an appraisal of the state of the train and were assured of security and anti-COVID measures put in place for a smooth and enjoyable trip. Unlike Intercity, the express train will make stops in Edeya, Ezeka, Makak and Gunu en route to Yaoundé. In all the stops, the local authorities and the population came out to express their joy of seeing the train again after 4 years. For the population of Ezeka, the train brings back memories of the 2006 tragedy. The minister assured them that the train is back on the rails in good state because of government support and determination. Before leaving DOUALA, the Minister of Transport inspected the 40 Chinese trains undergoing repairs and 4 others acquired.
The express train that hit the rails today from DOUALA to Yaoundé made stops at Ezeka, Edeya, Makak and Gumu, with administrative and religious authorities on board. The general manager of Camrai reassured on the security measures put in place, as well as COVID-19 precautions. Beatrice Ngum was amongst the onlookers who witnessed the train arrive at the station in Yaoundé. Here's a report.
The last hiss from the high-speed train announcing its arrival at the Yaoundé train station. As the train comes to a stop, passengers on board the test trip alight, then settle down for a chat. The crew that pulled the 11 renovated wagons from DOUALA to Yaoundé is then presented to the travelers. The train will be running on its wheels again in the days ahead. The crew says it is ready for the journey.
It's a feeling of joy and satisfaction. We've been working on this relaunch for some time. The train will be on track in the days ahead. This trip was smooth, no technical problem.
Thursday's test trip lasted 6 hours. For passengers, the ride was smooth and their hopes are high.
In the beginning, we were a little bit afraid, but slowly by slowly, we began to feel security.
We're hopeful that Camrai will succeed in restoring lost confidence with travelers after the Ezeka crash.
The Prime Minister is yet to announce the official date for the train trip resumption. Until then, passengers, be patient.
In economic news, Cameroon recorded a growth rate of 0.7% in 2020. This in spite of the health and security pressures encountered. The figure was revealed by the National Institute of Statistics. The role of the secondary sector in stimulating economic activity and hopes for fresh investments were expressed. Clarice Aretakan has the details.
From negative to stable, in spite of particularly challenging economic and financial circumstances. Even though Cameroon's 2020 growth rate is far from being ideal, relief stems from the fact that there was no decline in economic activity, indicating a recession. The minus 2.6% forecast was averted.
At the end of the day, we had more activities than projected. Activities brings also tax revenues. We are collecting revenue when people are selling goods, and there are also a lot of measures which allow also to come back to the activities.
While it is good news for investment, other areas were equally revived.
Today you can see many goods which are made by Cameroon themselves. And this is also a good news for structural transformation of our economy. We believe that for the coming years, the secondary sector will grow.
At a time when economies are still dealing with uncertain trade and financial destinies, hopes are on an ambitious local workforce to keep growth indicators green.
The Supreme State Audit Office, contractors and civil society organizations are teaming up to secure and to protect public funds. As government aims to preserve economic gains, the actors reflected on ways to promote the transparent management of the state treasury. The gathering was chaired by the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of the Supreme State Audit, Rose Achamba Fomundam. Beatrice Losamba tells us more.
Their role is not only to reprimand. The Supreme State Audit Office also prevents mismanagement of funds, corruption and cases of irregularities. Invested with powers of investigation, this external auditor works hand in gloves with internal auditing organs of ministries and state corporations to carry out its threefold missions.
Our international standards and regulations require that we also work with organization of civil society as well as the citizens, so that when they go into public contracts, they know exactly what they are going in for.
Trade union associations of contractors and civil society organizations have since 2018 become key partners in bringing to the limelight acts of mismanagement and making sure contractors who receive money from the state coffers account for the last franc used.
Public funds is not our private funds. It's not money for our children and wives. It belongs to Cameroonians.
As the government hopes to preserve economic gains and achieve emergence by 2035, platforms like these will quicken the process of getting vote holders and public bookkeepers be transparent in managing public funds and investment.
On to our Thursday of the regions, the phenomenon of tax evasion is rife in the Adamawa region as there is a proliferation of illegal importation of goods from neighboring regions. On a daily basis, customs and gendarmerie officials uncover networks specialized in fiscal fraud. Their tactics, which vary, cost the state huge losses. Ellis Waji Bangmia has the details.
Fiscal fraud is said to constitute a serious threat to the economy as tax evasion hampers the mobilization of needed funds to keep the nation vibrant. On a daily basis, instances of fraud are observed in different sectors as Adamawa customs officials struggle to set order in the milieu.
We take, for instance, cars. You know, one car can pay about 1, 2, 3 million, at times even 20 million in the government coffers. People do not want to pay, so they look for other means, other ways to come into the country without paying this money.
Similarly, mobile road safety units of the gendarmerie have severally apprehended vehicles with double car registration numbers circulating along the DOUALA YAOUNDE corridor, with truck owners avoiding to pay the required taxes. Others dealing in goods such as mobile phones, spirit drinks, or even petroleum products continuously derive strategies not to pay the required tariffs or smuggle these goods in the region. The immediate outcome is that the state loses taxes from import duties and unfair competition prevails on the local market.
In the face of such malicious economic practices, actions are being taken to check accounting anomalies. The disproportionate amount of tariffs declared and the smuggling of goods have prompted taxation authorities to devise means of tracking down the perpetrators. Amos Eno Nyaketagbo reports.
Drawn from Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, I quote, Eneke the bird says that since men have learned to shoot without missing, he has learned to fly without perching, end of quote. This quotation ties firmly with evolved and dynamic measures put in place by government functionaries in the Adamawa region to check fiscal fraud, which is fast draining the public treasury. To this, they have put in place a special unit of the Customs Corps, ARCOMI, which has as mission to fight against all illicit trade. The results have been satisfactory as defaulters have fallen on the dragnet. Added to that, procedures have been digitalized, meaning with the use of a simple cell phone to scan customs clearances, false ones have been identified. Taxation officials on their part have been providing law enforcement officers with the necessary documents transporters are supposed to have in order to go about their trade. Tele-declaration centers have been effective to enable taxpayers pay their dues, avoiding personal contacts as much as possible. Though there's still much to be done to curb fiscal fraud, these measures have been laudable as the first fruits are telling.
Away from fiscal fraud, 15 members of the Cameroon Human Rights Commission, recently appointed by presidential decree, have taken the oath of office. The solemn engagement ceremony today was presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Daniel Mekobe Sone. They were enjoined to be respecters of human rights and freedoms for a respected society. Sidonie Jobmandin tells us more.
These members of the Cameroon Human Rights Commission were carefully selected by the head of state based on their human rights background. They all took engagement to promote and protect human rights in Cameroon. Coming from different administrations, the commissioners are mandated to make sure that the rights of the vulnerable are addressed.
We want to just work together to move the agenda forward. Issues of widows, issues of
gender-based violence, all those kind of things. So that is the area I come in. As an independent body, but we are serving the state. The state has put us to serve them, to serve the civil society and the larger community.
My expertise mostly is on minorities and indigenous people. So I think that I will work more in that domain.
The newly appointed members also have as role enhancing human rights culture based on the ideals of peace, equal rights and responsibilities.
Our mandate is quite clear, and we have to work with poverty, impartiality and independence.
While taking the oath to respect principles of their profession, important recommendations on how to bring out data which can help in educating the public on the prevention of torture were also made by authorities of the Supreme Court. In a countdown to the 135th International Labour Day, we bring to the limelight the role of trade unions. Their primary objective is to advance the interests of members in their place of work, defending their interests and making certain that there is a win-win partnership between employers and employees. Yoti Kalilisonge outlines the missions of trade unions in this report.
A perfect employer and employee symbiosis is built by trade unions. On one hand is the workers' interest, and on the other is the company's productivity.
Trade unions don't only defend workers' interests. When we have all contributed to the productivity of an enterprise, then we can see if workers' rights are being respected.
In the face of adversity, they are present.
We have roles to build an enterprise because if it dies, the employee also suffers.
Their other aim is for employees to earn more.
We have just one role as syndicates to protect the workers' wallet.
Trade unions also organize capacity building workshops.
We train almost everyone in the enterprise, not just staff. We have training on productivity. We also train personnel delegates and employers' representatives. We also have seminars on social dialogue.
Labor organizations do in-house cleaning when necessary.
Once we realize that we have some presidents who don't do their job, we change them. And if for staff delegates it is gross, we suspend or exclude them from the syndicate.
Belonging to a labor union, these trade unionists say is beneficial to staff.
An educative talk on the Health and Safety Commission of the Cameroon Radio Television CRTV characterized activities building up to this year's Labour Day. With the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, the Director General of CRTV, Shandongo, joined the panelists to profile actions taken to shield workers from the coronavirus pandemic. Jamshi Roland Tem is the Centre Regional Delegate for Labour and Social Security. He explains the exchange.
The health and safety units in companies have an important role to play. So we want to highlight that role so that these structures can be very performant in the protection of workers' health. And from the expose that CRT presented, we can see that their structure is well in place and that it is functioning well. We want to encourage other companies to copy the example of CRTV.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
The mass and intensive vaccination of Cameroonians against the coronavirus pandemic is on course, with about 11,000 persons already immunized with the first dose. The aim of the campaign is to break the contamination chain of the virus and to bring to the barest minimum the number of infections. Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Eric Tandy, tell us more from the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther Kima. With more and more Cameroonians getting interested to have themselves vaccinated in the different vaccination centers in the 10 different regions of the country, how possible is it for us to get to a situation where we'll have mass vaccination in the 10 different regions? Let's find out from our guest tonight, Dr. Eric Tanzi. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening, buddy.
How possible is it for us to get to a situation of us having, like what we had recently, mass testing for COVID-19, this time mass vaccination?
Yeah, thank you, Bodin. You know, the state already have a plan for vaccination, and this plan is going gradually based on the specifications that have been allocated. Like you already know, we started with health personnel and then going with persons with comorbidities and above the age of 50. And again, the disposition of the vaccines that are available also in the country, the quantity, will determine how we could expand the vaccination program or the vaccination campaign. So it is a stepwise situation based on the resources we have at hand and also based on the need. But to assure you, the state is taking into consideration to cover the population as much as it can.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eric Tanzi, for being our guest this evening. The take-home message from here is that we are encouraging more and more Cameroonians in the 10 different regions of the country to have themselves vaccinated as one of the measures to break the contamination chain of the coronavirus in Cameroon. Back to you, Esther Kima.
Thanks very much, Borden Sama. We'll stay in the health sector where 359 medical students from the Faculty of Medicines of the Universities of Buea, Yaounde 1 and DOUALA have taken the Hippocratic Oath. This was at the Cameroon Medical Council in Yaounde, where the council's president, Dr. Guy Sanjon, urged the new medical doctors to put humanity at the center of their service. As they begin their professional life, they were administered their first COVID-19 jabs. Gerard Nanji Eyambe reports.
Upon taking the Hippocratic Oath, these 359 doctors of medicine from the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences in the University of Buea, DOUALA and Yaounde have been given the license to practice as medical doctors in Cameroon. While formally welcoming them into the doctor's house, the president of the Cameroon Medical Council, Dr. Guy Sanjon, cautioned them to be at the service of humanity.
What they swear to do is to protect the human life, not for money and not for any other thing.
Haven't received the blessings from the medical council, the now medical doctors have pledged to practice with conscience and dignity.
We cannot practice without the help of our seniors who have been there before us. They will help us by holding our hands and leading us in the right direction so that we can provide adequate and optimal healthcare to the people of this great nation.
I will do my best for my patients.
The ceremony was punctuated by the award of prizes to the best laureates of each faculty, while graduates got vaccinated against the COVID-19 since they are at the front line to save lives.
Internally displaced persons of Momo Division in the Northwest region have received food aid from members of Parliament for Momo, Honorable Charles Anyere Aka. The gifts have come as a relief to the people of this area hard hit by the socio-economic political crisis. The MP used the occasion to call for a return to peace. Julius Neba tells us more from CRTV Northwest in Bamenda.
The items handed over were comprised of bags of rice, salt, vegetable oil, soap and face mask. One of the elated beneficiaries, His Royal Highness Mbaku Richard Fongang of Enwen, says it has been difficult living out of his palace for over a year now.
I'm here with my 2 wives, with 9 children. I rent here. No, I find it difficult to feed them, to take care, send them to school. The small ones is not easy.
Honorable Anyere Charles sensitized the internally displaced persons on the need to promote education and peace as a tool to attract development to Momo, which has been hit hard by the ongoing socio-political crisis.
I have to visit all the major cities of Cameroon, all the 10 regions, to tell the Moamo people who are there that they should go back home. That there is time for anger, there is time to cry, there is time to laugh. It is now time for us to talk peace and not more violence. Violence is only destruction.
In this regard, the parliamentarian encouraged the youths still carrying arms against the state to drop them and see themselves to the disarmament centers.
And now on today's nostalgic moments, the TV newsroom of the Cameroon Radio Television is letting go one of its ace journalists, Augustin Bijoka. After 26 years of service in the corporation, he integrated as a local language broadcaster, then journalist, who occupied several posts of responsibility. The assiduous and committed worker did his last proofreading and news monitoring today. Rahanatu Sali captured the moments in these reports.
He drafts his last script as a journalist in the Cameroon Radio Television. 26 years of service, Augustin Bijoka says he exits the TV newsroom a fulfilled man.
I'm very glad to leave today after 26 years of work, and always where there is a will, there is a way.
He started off as a stringer and local language broadcaster in CRTV Center in 1992. 3 years later, he got integrated and then enrolled into ASMAC, where he backed a degree in journalism. Augustin has since then been climbing the ladder of success. From assistant editor-in-chief in CRTV Bafoussam to chief of news supervision, then editor-in-chief in CRTV Center in 2015.
I had the biggest opportunity to cover the presidential trip to Bamenda in 2010.
I'm moved when I'm now thinking of Augustin going on retirement. I'm really moved because I think Augustin, we all here in CRTV shall miss him.
Augustin Bijoka's name goes down the archives of CRTV for his irreproachable character throughout his career. His fine pen and laughter will be missed.
Yes.
And we're wishing you well as you begin a new life, Augustin. On to sports. The McGill Construction Company and subcontractors tasked to complete the Olembe Sports Complex have been pressed to hasten up the level of execution. The Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Professor Narcis Molekombi, who was at the site today, emphasized that the stadium must be ready by November this year. Baldwin Sama tells us more.
Another visit to the Olembe Stadium to assess work progress 1 week after, as Minister Narcis Molekombi's first stop was at the Annex B Stadium, where work is ongoing on the athletics track, expected to be ready in the days ahead. A similar case at the Annex B Stadium, where work on the athletics track is at the foundation level. Accompanied by Minister Joseph Lay of Public Service and Governor Nasere Paul Beya, Sports and Physical Education Minister visited the commercial center of the complex with workers busy placing tiles in some of the halls, while around the sections reserved for the hotel, work is progressing with some tiles already being placed in some rooms. During a brief working session with McGill and her subcontractors, Professor Narcis Molekombi called on McGill Construction to redouble efforts and ensure that the deadline of November this year for the stadium to be ready is respected.
April's cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Joseph John Goutei focused on the creation of an intranet service to secure government communication, the customs information system, and COVID-19 tendencies in Cameroon. That was our main story on this edition of the 7:30 News that ends now. At 8:30 p.m., you'll be in the company of DOUALA. I'll be taking a break. It was a pleasure and exciting moments serving you, as from Monday, you'll be in the company of Ben Meno Pufong. Till I come your way again, stay protected from the coronavirus pandemic. Good night and stay tuned to our programs on CRTV and on CRTV News.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.